I'm not sure whether you caught some of that media conference. We know the Queensland Chief Medical Officer has locked down on far few cases. The question being asked is that are they avoiding lockdown just to get the NRL Grand Final in on the weekend?
Well, that's a question for them, but I will say I know that it'll be very disappointing for so many Queenslanders just having these new additional restrictions imposed upon them. And I think it'll be absolutely devastating for those 12,000 odd people who are so looking forward to going to the NRL Grand Final. And I really feel for them. I think if Premier Palaszczuk wanted to show some leadership, she'd perhaps give up her seat for one of those ordinary Australians who really want to see the Grand Final this weekend.
Well, she went to Tokyo because she said it would have been a disaster if she didn't. Is this the same kettle of fish, do you think?
Listen, I think Premier Palaszczuk's got a little bit of form in terms of having one rule for herself and another rule for others, but I'll leave the further commentary to others. I'm a Victorian. We've dealt with just the close to now the longest lockdown of anywhere in the world. And I just feel for those Queenslanders who are now going to have further restrictions placed upon them. I hope that does get control of the virus, but the experience here in Victoria is even with very, very tough lockdowns, that virus can still get away from us.
Well, the good news in Victoria and New South Wales, the vaccination rates are vastly higher than in Queensland. So we're looking at freedoms, at least here in New South Wales. One good thing overnight is that children can get back to school much earlier. I mean, New South Wales has looked at the risk, they've looked at the vaccination rate and judged that can happen earlier. Should other states follow?
Listen, it's only New South Wales, Victoria and the ACT who have their schools closed at the moment. It's near the big capital cities. I really welcome the fact that New South Wales has brought forward the school opening dates by a week, and I think parents will overwhelmingly welcome that. And I would certainly like to see those other jurisdictions who do have their schools closed to be doing a similar thing to what New South Wales has done, and that is re-evaluating the health advice on a regular basis to see if it does make sense for the schools to be reopened earlier. So schools we have to open them at some stage. The national plan says that when we get to those 70% figures and 80% figures, then schools should be open, except for in hotspot areas. And it's so important, not just for parents to have some relief and to be able to go back to work, but it's critically important for those kids learning and particularly for their mental health, because we know the devastation which lockdowns have had on kids' mental health. And so we've got to get kids back to school as quickly as possible.
Looking at the case numbers, they're coming down in New South Wales as vaccination rates go up. There's still low numbers in the ACT. It's a different story in Victoria, but surely, as you say, re-evaluating the health advice constantly, could this happen even earlier in New South Wales?
It's only a matter of weeks away now. So the only thing that I would say is that A, that there is now hope on the horizon, that it's simply a matter of weeks away for most parents and most kids. But B, the only thing that could be considered, I think, Laura, is whether or not parents are given the opportunity to choose to send their kids back to school earlier, particularly if they are double vaccinated, their kids are double vaccinated, and the teacher is double vaccinated. I think that would be worthy of consideration. Parents who are essential workers are already able to send their kids to school, and perhaps this could be an additional category. I don't underestimate the complexity of that and having to work through that carefully, but potentially that could be something which provides some additional relief for parents, gets some kids at least back to school earlier, and obviously helps workforce issues as well as the economy starts to open up.
Yeah, that's a really important point as well, because it's not just getting kids back to school. It means that, you know, parents can be more productive in their work as well, their income, you know, actually getting back to the office or something like that. So are you saying if Gladys Berejiklian today gave consideration to double vaccinated families, in children included, if they went back to school and their teacher was double vaccinated, that you would encourage that and facilitate that happening sooner rather than later?
Well, ultimately, these would be decisions for state and territories. But I just think it's worthy of consideration, and it might provide a further encouragement as well for parents to go and get their kids vaccinated. So, as I said, I appreciate the complexities here, and that it would be challenging for teachers and for parents, but it just may well be worthwhile doing that work. There's already complexities about having parents of kids who are sons and daughters of essential workers being at school when the rest are remote learning. So you've already got that parallel learning going on. And it's not easy for teachers, it's not easy for schools, but it might be worthwhile looking further at this question as it relates to double vaccinated parents with double vaccinated kids and double vaccinated teachers.
All right, we'll try and get some questions on that to Gladys Berejiklian in about 15 minutes' time. Just quickly before I let you go, any update on university students getting back into universities and also international students?
Obviously, where it is safe to do so, we want to see Aussie students back on campuses, but that's obviously dictated by the state government rules. Now, once we get to that 80% vaccination rate, then universities should be back open, apart from very limited restrictions, as is determined by the chief health officer. In relation to international students, New South Wales and South Australia have the most advanced plans there, and I'm still hoping that we'll see some international students back this year and have larger numbers back next year. Now, that would be consistent with the national plan, and we want to see those international students back because they're good for the universities, they provide a revenue source, they can be good to enhance the student experience in the classrooms, and of course they're great for the general economy as well, and many go on and become great Australians subsequently. So it's an important sector for us. We want to see them back, and I'm hoping that we'll get at least some smaller numbers this year and some larger numbers early next year.
Okay, we hope so. New South Wales leading the way on that one, of course. Alan Tudge, thanks so much. We'll speak to you soon.
Thanks very much, Laura.